Live from the University of Texas at Austin, the Liberal Arts ITS Development Studio and the Department of History are pleased to present History of the United States since 1865. And now, here is your professor, Dr. Jeremi Suri.
That's the story of suburbanization. That's the story of the 1970s. It's not that American society remains stuck in its segregated attitudes. It is that the changes in attitudes create a search for peaceful ways of managing relations between different groups, similar to what Kazushi was talking about with U.S.-China relations, managing relationships that still manage and create separation at the same time. So what's embedded, I'm going to go back to the image of Charlotte if we could. What's embedded in this image is the Lincolnian dream of free labor, free soil, free men. There is a civil rights message that people should be able to live where they want, but that is economically actually creating the basis for people to further separate themselves. These suburbs are filled. They are filled with people who believe that they are racially enlightened, and perhaps are, but they are choosing to live separately. And they're choosing to send their kids to school separately. It is exactly what Kazushi is talking about in U.S. relationships with China. The United States now embraces a world of cooperation with China, but we still want our separate space, and we want them to have their separate space. Final part of the speech I'm going to read. If they dare to come out in the open field and defend the gold standard as a good thing, we shall fight them to the utmost. Having behind us the producing masses of the nation and the world, having behind us the commercial interests and the laboring interests and all the toiling masses, we shall answer their demands for a gold standard by saying to them, you shall not press down upon the brow of labor this crown of thorns. You shall not crucify mankind upon a cross of gold. What do you all hear in that speech?
All right, so we have a lot of comments about the speech. Ingrid Johnson says he has a lot of fervor in his language. Ashley Martinez says there's religious language to justify his point, such as when he says holy cause. Kyle Ishka, I hope I'm saying that right, says it sounds like a Baptist sermon. Christina Gaddy says she likes his definition of businessman. Kaylee says he is pushing equality. Yasmin says he's attacking the gold standard. A lot of people saying that, you know, acknowledging the religious rhetoric in the speech. Yep.
Those are great comments. Those are great. Keep saying them in because we want to read more of them. Welcome to our next installment of Maps in History. Today we're going to be looking at two maps from World War I, the Great War. So on our first map here, we have Europe on the eve of World War I and during the early years of the Great War. And I want you to notice three things on this map. First, this is a map of empires. There are not lots of nation states. In fact, this Europe looks very different from the Europe we're accustomed to seeing. If you look carefully, you will see there is a large Germany, and an Austro-Hungarian Empire, and a large Russia, and a large Great Britain, and a large France. There are a lot of things missing. Before we talk about Ronald Reagan, Mikhail Gorbachev, and the end of the Cold War today, we have a special treat. All of you did your video assignments, your mini lectures for us, and they were excellent. In fact, they were great. Yeah. I mean, what was great about them, Chris?
I really like the way that you guys engage with the material. I think, you know, a lot of you really took the comments we made on the written analysis to heart. Some of them were creative, and some of them, you know, even if you didn't get into the technical bells and whistles, you did a pretty good job.
Yeah, I think that's right. Kazushi, thoughts?
I'll definitely echo Chris's comment, and also many of them tried to engage with the audience through camera by making eye contact.
Yes.
Making some hand gestures.
Yeah. The whole point of this assignment, thank you guys, the whole point of this assignment was to give you a chance to not only write a paper on a document, but then to actually present your own mini lecture. This is Chris's choice, Stephanie, and we're going to play this and I'll say a couple of things about it. Okay, let's roll it.
Hello everyone. Today we're going to be discussing Woodrow Wilson's New Freedom speech of 1913. Woodrow Wilson was the first Southern Democratic candidate to win a presidential election in decades. In his speech, Woodrow Wilson discusses the vastly changing American economy and society.
So I thought that was an excellent video. I think what it did is it showed a fluid delivery and a really thoughtful analysis of what Wilson was trying to do and the limitations of that and the legacies of both the accomplishments of Wilson's policy, but also the limitations that it had and the continued problems that it left for future generations.
Regina's question about FDR.
I knew Regina would have a question.
Yep.
Regina's one of our super questioners.
So what was the point of the New Deal security laws that made it harder for employers to raise capital and didn't help investors do better? Why did FDR discourage investors from taking the risks of funding growth and jobs?
Big question.
Yes, I think I understand the thrust of the question, which is, but correct me if you heard it differently, why all the Wall Street regulations? If he's trying to sort of revive the economy, why put more regulations? Is that the thrust of the question?
Yeah, I think that's how I heard it also.
Okay, the point was not to penalize Wall Street, but to create an environment in which there was more confidence so that you could actually induce people to begin to invest again. Because without sort of, there was a complete absence almost, a decline of investment. That dropped and plummeted
Dropped a lot of dollars.
Directly as a consequence both of the stock market crash but also of the depression. So the question was, how could you sort of revive the economy? And the idea was you had to create a safer space for doing it. So you create things like the SEC, for example.
Securities and Exchange Commission.
So that you can sort of induce investment to return.
Right. And this is what FDR means when he says sound money.
Yes.
Right, in that first fireside chat, right?
Yes.
We're going to make sure your money is sound money, right? This
Yeah.
is sort of making people trust in the system again.
But there's a deeper question. Whenever you're doing serious historical analysis, even if you're doing it for a lawyer or someone else, you have to take account of contrary evidence. So I wanted all of you to have to think through different arguments made by different people, and also evidence or events or identifications that run in opposite directions, because the world is not simple. You had to take a position, but there is contradictory evidence, and I wanted you to grapple with that. And one of the things we'll be looking for as we grade these is, do you grapple with contrary evidence? If you said the United States became more democratic, how did you then react to the 1924 Immigration Act? If you said the United States became less democratic, how did you react to the Civilian Conservation Corps? How do you deal with contradictory evidence to your thesis? Because the world is filled with contradiction, right? So that's one of the things we want to see you analytically grapple with. It's something we do in every lecture. It's something every reading that you have does as well.